Come on. Come on. It says
It's a terrible thing when the first thing John says after I get a duck is, "You took it apart." Anyway,
Well, you did.
That's beside the point.
And scattered shit everywhere. Literally.
I had to take it apart. If you want to keep the frozen rain off our heads, thanks, Wally.
Yeah.
Donate here.
Rain should not bounce.
Yeah, rain should. Well, depending on where the rain is.
It should just go splat.
It was not raining when I got here. I did not bring a jacket. Jim and Cedar show up and they bring the freezing rain. If you need,
Excuse me. Go ahead.
I said what I said. If you like coffee, talk to these guys. Let them know you heard about it here because coffee keeps the freezing rain off.
We do have a peanut gallery. Go ahead. You got one more.
One more. If you like smartass t-shirts,
At least
Go.
hold the thing straight.
I'm trying. I hate this backwards bullshit. Go here. It's tinyurl.com among the leaves tees. You got like 600 smartass t-shirts. Might go there.
We do have a peanut gallery today. Wally is in from out of town.
Texas's newest landowner.
Yes.
Wally has purchased land in Itchy Paw County.
So now you can't say Wally's from out of town anymore.
Nope. No, we can't.
Don't put it. Yeah, thank you. Turn it upside down before you fuck with it.
Anybody with an ounce of sense would have put the storage for the candy poo in the bottom. This one, it's not. So when I took it apart to see how it worked, candy went everywhere.
Well, poo went everywhere.
Candy poo went everywhere.
Yeah, that too. Oh,
Lost my grip on my poo.
yeah.
At least you're not cleaning it.
Yet.
I forgot.
Uh-oh.
I forgot the neutral judge. I forgot the judge.
Yes, it's one of those days, folks.
All day long.
Oh.
Of course, they go party. Yes. I was interested to see how it worked. Then it fell apart.
We are going to see if we can get the mic to stay on the whole day today. We're actually going back to an older computer, older Mac,
Oh, we
to
are.
see if this thing will actually run the entire time.
And now we're off on poo puns.
The chat
Ah.
is doing chatty things.
The chat's doing chatty things.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry, guys. I don't have a clue on the video freezing. I don't think that's us.
I think YouTube has an issue with us.
Yeah.
I think YouTube.
David, no. Just
What?
friggin' no. Do you have any gray poo puns?
But of course.
It runs in your genes. Padre. Oh.
I'm not engaging. Not gonna engage. Yeah, high fives. And the chat's full of punsters, by the way.
With this crowd, what do you expect?
A modicum of class.
Yeah, right.
Uh-huh.
Crass. C-R-A-S-S.
Prepare to be disappointed.
It's just started hitting the fan. Yeah. No, we can't get it high enough to get. Well, we could, but
Challenge accepted.
oh,
No way.
God.
Jono will kill me.
Yeah. Yeah, Differ, y'all had hail and snow. We're getting the hail now. Name your hearty piece, explosive diarrhea.
Wow.
With the cad and decadence.
And the Raven depraved.
Yeah.
He went there. So
Well, class, I have adulting instead. Don, we're not even going to talk about your level of adulting.
this is Dawn, right?
Yeah.
Dawn in Colorado.
Yeah.
The Dawn we've known before she was an adult.
Yeah.
Adult, my ass.
And tomorrow's for forecast includes a fire weather warning. Yes.
Fire weather, Panhandle.
Sadly, up in the Panhandle, smokehouse is, when I checked a while ago, is only 10% contained.
I thought rain went through there this morning.
It did.
Oh,
It's in the Mesquite. It's running.
oh God, of course it is.
They have lost one person known dead up there. Sadly, an 80 plus year old lady who lived alone. I'm going to guarantee you she died trying to save her house.
Well, I've seen pictures,
Yeah.
a couple of herds.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're thinking of. It got a herd. And I'm not talking a small one. It got a herd.
Yeah. The city of Finch basically is burned out. Quite a bit of
French or
damage.
Finch?
Fritch.
Fritch.
Uh,
Wow.
quite a bit of damage in downtown Canadian. The fire went through Canadian.
Oh, Canadian was such a pretty little
Yeah.
town.
Tiffany, I hope all of your folks are okay up there. It's a mess. Multiple fires burning.
Brian Cameron, I sometimes on here was actually tracking in real time on weather radar.
Yeah.
And you could see when the fire pulled a 180.
Yeah.
He had a video capture on the radar where the fire did a 180 when the front came through.
Yep.
And that was spectacular.
Oh, it's even more spectacular when you're trying to fight the son of a bitch and it turns around on you.
Remember, I was starting my career as a deputy up there. I know all about that.
Yeah.
I'm quite happy to be right here. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I did it in Florida. Yeah. I actually got caught one of those that turned around. You do not want to be in a pine tree farm with it topping when the fire decides to turn around.
No. And the mesquite thickets.
Yeah.
When I first moved to the Panhandle, there wasn't much mesquite up there. And then that was 92.
Yeah.
And since then, mesquite's just taken over. And
Yeah.
that you get fire in mesquite thicket and you can't get a truck in there because the thorns will puncture the tires.
Yeah.
And mesquite's an oily wood, so it burns. It just burns.
Yep. I did see Lloyd and his wife this morning.
Oh, how are they doing?
Doing well.
For being 20 miles away, we hardly ever see them.
Yeah. And
Oh.
Lloyd is working with the church on clearing some land and apparently has a lot of mesquite on it.
I'm sorry.
He is now learning about mesquite and chainsaws and things that live in mesquite thickets.
Everything that lives in a mesquite thicket is an evil little bastard.
Yeah.
Wheel bugs.
Mr. No Shoulders.
Johnny No Shoulders.
Yeah.
Wheel bugs are the worst. I hate wheel bugs.
Yeah.
No seums, fire ants. They
Yeah.
all live in mesquite thickets. And the thing about we were actually talking to Wally earlier. I was warning him about mesquite on his land.
Yeah.
And he was smart, got some land that's been pre-cleared. That ain't cheap, folks. Clearing mesquite off your land ain't cheap. But the thing about it is a lot of folks that don't know any better will go through a chainsaws and cut the mesquite off at ground level.
Yeah.
And then the taproot keeps going.
Yeah.
They say the mesquite will do an 80-foot taproot.
Mhm.
That they're lying.
It'll go to wherever the water is.
Yeah. There's mesquite on the I was telling Wally in the Panhandle, the Palo Duro Canyon. There's mesquite on the Palo Duro. Just drops out of a table. Well, at the top of the table, there's some mesquite up there. And
500 feet.
Yeah, they're pretty sure that at the bottom of the canyon, 500 feet down, where the water table is, mesquite roots have gotten to there.
Yeah. The water table used to be halfway up the side of the canyon.
Yeah, it did. Mesquite and salt cedar.
Yeah. No, you cannot back up a brush hog. Trust me. Anybody that's ever driven a brush hog knows better. They don't back up worth a damn. And if they do, they're going to normally tip and or rip your PTO off.
If you have a mesquite that's never been trimmed,
Yeah.
If you haven't screwed with it and cut it off at the ground, you can bet, an average, that however high the mesquite is, the taproot's twice the height on average. And
So if it's 3 foot tall bush, you got a 6 foot taproot.
6-foot taproot.
And Alma has been keeping me informed of what was going on up there. and significantly worse, literally hour by hour.
Yeah, I saw some pictures online that it just you can see this ribbon of fire.
Yeah.
Um,
The ribbon of fire is not the problem. It's when you get the wall of fire running.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is aerial footage looking down at it,
Yeah.
so it looks from up there. It looks like a ribbon.
Yeah. But the other problem that Alma was talking about was it was down in the brakes.
Yep.
And there's no way to get in and fight that.
The only thing you get down the brakes is a horse, and they're not going down there.
No, they're smarter than that.
The brakes. Okay, there are in
Three-
Eastern
Really, Nick?
Eastern Panhandle where we were. Hey, Nick. It's intern Steve.
Yeah.
Where I was on the eastern part of the Caprock, the breaks are where the Canadian River goes through, and then the water running off of the Caprock has cut channels, draws from the Caprock down to where the Canadian is, and then on the east side, where the Caprock stops and the rest of Texas begins, all those draws we call those the breaks.
Yep.
And they're just not. I love the brakes. It's brakes are. I've gone through the Canadian brakes a couple times looking for kids.
Yeah.
And we always got horses, and we go through the brakes looking for lost children because the Canadian River Valley is a popular recreational spot, and you lose kids. And I'm here to tell you that nothing will make you upgrade from a 357 to a 44 Magnum faster than at 3 a.m. Going through the brakes, looking at the draws for a kid and hearing mountain lions scream behind you. You suddenly realize you don't have enough gun.
As your horse takes off and you end up on the ground.
And your horse will hot damn, I left some hay in the oven. Let's go take care of it. That horse had never run so fast in his life.
No, Joel, cutting it off at ground level or a bit lower will not kill it.
No, it won't.
You literally have to go in and grub. It's called grubbing the root out.
Mm-hmm.
That's why around here they charge $2,500 an acre to clear it of mesquite, because they literally bring in a D7 sized caterpillar. And
the grubbing blade has long fingers on it, and and the thing is, Jim and I have watched in this area when Jim first got here back. When did you get here?
2015.
About 10 years ago, Jim got here. 10 years ago, when he was here and we were driving around, we were watching some of the nouveau riche landowners that had paid somebody to grub out their land, and they cleared the mesquite. And 10 years later, they've done nothing, and the mesquites come back.
Nick, basically the brakes circle Amarillo. Amarillo sits on the plaza
Amarillo sits on the
Llano
Llano Estacado.
Thank you.
The Caprock. You
That
have
word.
breaks at Paladuro Canyon. You have breaks at the Caprock Canyons. Those are south of where I worked. Then you have the breaks on the eastern side where the Caprock meets the rest of Texas.
Yeah.
And the water running off the Caprock has carved gorges and draws and arroyos down the side of the.
And then you have the Canadian
Then you
breaks,
have
which
Canadian
are north,
breaks.
actually north of Amarillo. That's also up at Borger where the oil field is. And
Pampa, the one you're thinking of is Pampa. Pampa is actually on a little stick out, a little polyp.
Yeah.
From the Caprock with breaks around it on three sides.
Yeah. Mesquite does not have. Kudzu does not have spikes. Mesquite has spikes.
And kudzu, Tibet, I don't know much about kudzu other than A, it's edible, B, nobody will do it, and C, you have to use motor oil to fertilize it. But mesquite doesn't grow as fast, but it's got these bloody long thorns. And then apparently it sends out this beckoning signal for all the little bastard wildlife that as soon as a mesquite thicket pops up, you get wheel bugs and javelina and feral hogs and rattlesnakes and no-see-ums and the jump and get you, the choya, jump and catch us.
Yeah.
Jump and choya shows up, and it's just and getting through it. A&M did an up here in this area. A&M did an experiment a long time ago. There was a camel-ish analog. Might have actually been camels. I forget the actual details. There was a camelish analog that was a North American thingy back in the Paleolithic. So what A&M did was they paid a rancher out west of here to keep camels on his property. He had a nasty mesquite thicket because he didn't give a damn. So they put camels on his property because camels can eat thorny bushes.
Yeah.
Because they apparently evolved around mesquite. Anyway, within 2 years, the mesquites had gone from a bush with aspirations to actual trees.
Yep.
Because the camels were basically trim them off and turn it into a rather nice little forest. Because you'd have a straight trunk going up as high as the camel could reach, and then it'd branch out. So it was actually a lovely little forest.
Yeah, and Hawaii, they call it kiawe.
And they're crazy.
Yeah. And there are quite a few large kiawe trees on the Halakoa property, which is the military resort hotel. And they spend a lot of time cutting down the bushes that pop up and the weeds that pop up.
Yeah.
And I took one look at it and I went, that's mesquite. And this native Hawaiian goes, oh, that's kiawe. I said, no, that's mesquite.
That's mesquite.
And it's invasive. And he goes, yeah.
Kill it.
Yeah. As far as, by the way, camels, they've had camels out here in Texas since 1860s, if not before.
That was the Camel's version 2.0 because there was apparently an evolved version here.
Yeah,
somewhere.
they brought actually brought camels in here for the cavalry back in the day.
Rita's here.
Hello, lady.
Hello. Hello.
It's a Rita.
Yes, it is.
So we have had a little experience in Texas with camels over the years.
But and another thing about mesquite thorns is not only are they long and sharp, they've actually got a mild toxin on them.
Yeah.
And when you get stabbed with mesquite, it hurts. It hurts worse than it should.
And Cedar is having fun with her artwork over here.
What? I'm just drawing. We're talking about mesquite. I'm listening.
Well, you could chime in with your things.
Hey, mesquite is edible.
Yeah.
And the beans in it are actually very high in protein. So there are uses for it because, well, I mean, we humans tend to try and use the stuff that annoys us.
And that's one of the issues. Mesquite's not native to this area. It really isn't. It's a South Texas, Mexico thing.
1840s, 1850s. Thanks, David.
But the thing is when they were on the cattle drives.
Yeah.
The cows will eat everything, including mesquite beans. Now, apparently, mesquite beans just kind of cruise along inside a cow's digestive tract and pop out the other end
Free fertilized.
in a pile of fertilizer.
Yeah, there are a number of plants that are evolved to actually be eaten by a browser and moved along with the herd because that spreads. I mean, that's the plant's goal is reproduce, but also spread the population. So
one of the things I used to tell people is everywhere you see a mesquite, it's an ancient cow patty.
Cedar mesquite syrup. No.
What?
yes, you can make syrup out of mesquite beans.
Well, there differs is saying cedar and mesquite syrup.
I don't know about cedar. That would be pretty resinous.
Yeah.
Question
Now-
for Cedar.
Oh.
Any reaction to the kerfuffle about Google's Gemini? Oh, this should be good.
Well, I mean, it's very obvious that they had done some tinkering in the training.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and
Tinkering.
that's the thing. Well, and that's exactly the thing with it
She's so
is
sweet.
that it's what you get from the AI is what you put into the AI.
Yeah.
And it was very, very obvious that they had set the weighting on results.
Yeah.
So that they would get specific certain kinds of results. But I mean, we've been seeing the same thing out of like Chat GPT
Yeah.
engines for a couple of years.
Yep.
So it's not really a surprise that they'd have done it to one of the art things.
Yeah.
Now it's funny because the Gemini stuff, we were talking a couple of weeks before that blew up. There had been a result where someone had tried to prompt for the man in Tiananmen Square.
Yeah.
And had gotten stuff that, well, actually, I think what they got told was that it violates terms of
Yeah.
service in promoting violence or something
Yeah.
like that. So I ran it through the art tool that I use and was able to get some really interesting looking images that are
Yeah.
definitely representative of the courage of the man in Tiananmen Square. I've got some beautiful black and white journalistic photo level images of a man standing there with his shopping bags looking up at a tank,
Yeah.
which is not the angle that we get from the photo. So this is the AI's actually generating what I wanted it to. So I know that there are other models that are capable of creating the stuff that this model is completely flubbing.
Not owned by the Chinese.
Well, it's not even owned by the Chinese. It's the agendas and activism underlying the people designing the software tool.
She's so
And-
polite and sweet.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing, though. For me to be polite and sweet like this, I don't like to feed the trolls. I want to sway the people that are sitting on the sidelines undecided and trying
Yeah.
to figure this out.
Google skull fucked that AI.
Well, Google trained that AI to say what Google wanted it to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
And then Google comes in later and is like, oh, my bad.
Yeah.
No, they were trying
No.
to see what they could get away with.
Yep.
And they have found out.
It's not the first time they've done that either.
Oh, no, absolutely not. This
Wow.
is just the most obvious.
Remember
of the
what?
recent stuff.
What was it? A couple of months ago? Their word AI.
Hmm.
I remember asking it for a list of presidents, and it didn't list Trump as president.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It
Yeah.
skipped from
Obama
to
to Biden.
Biden. Yeah.
It actually listed Biden as 45.
the other thing that was interesting.
It's Courtney. We have a full house today.
Yeah, I ran one the other night just for
Hmm.
shits and giggles. Oh, the skulls!
I love the skulls. See, and she wore
She's in a
something
mood.
warm.
She's in a mood today.
She wore something warm. It wasn't doing this when I got here. I don't have a jacket.
Wah.
I don't know what to tell you. Like,
Oh.
So anyway, I did one just for grins because somebody had suggested it in one of the military chats. Said, see what it'll come up with for shoplifters. And what it came up with was two white, what I would call university type preppy
Hmm.
females.
Yeah.
One
That's-
trying to stick a obvious purse in her jacket.
Uh-huh.
And that was the only time I could get white people to come up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing: is that they shot themselves in the foot by making it just a little too obvious. But it isn't. I mean, it is by no means the only place that we're seeing the bias like this, and the blatant attempts to create the world that they want to exist, whether it's reality or not.
Yeah.
So it's. I mean, there's part of a reason. This is part of the reason that I pay for Midjourney.
Yeah.
The free ones out there, they're open source. They get created by people that have agendas. Midjourney's agenda is to make money, and I'm okay with that.
See you later, Sushi. Be good.
Be good, Liz.
To know that the product is what they're selling me, and I'm paying for that
Yeah.
product. But every time you get using a free tool,
You're-
are the product.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
you are the product.
Well,
And you're
So-
also the beta tester.
Well, that too, but
Of course, that goes
especially
back to
with
Microsoft.
the open stuff. Yeah.
the one that's mildly amusing to me about the Google kerfuffle is how wound up everybody is, and they're not paying attention. There has been a concerted, quiet effort to erase everything prior to 1994.
Mhm.
Back when I was still blogging regularly, I used to make these historical comments about immigration. Last time I blogged about immigration years ago, I pointed out that in 1980, they'd had a comprehensive immigration plan that was supposed to fix everything. The U.S. Congress had a comprehensive immigration reform plan in 1980
under Reagan.
Yeah, it was Teddy Kennedy was spearheaded it.
Yep.
Supposed to fix everything in exchange for amnesty. Amnesty for the ones here, and then we will make sure it doesn't happen again. And then I was pointing that out, and the number of people that we didn't know about that. There's every time the government says it's going to fix something, I can go back to the past and show you where they've tried to do it before. Why are you letting them try again? Well, Google's just taking that one step further.
Yeah. No,
they're rewriting history.
Amnesty version 1.0 was under Bill Clinton in 1992.
No, the 1980 was an amnesty in exchange for amnesty for all of the.
You're right.
Yeah, 1980.
Clinton was amnesty version 2.0.
2.0.
Yeah.
And that's the one I was writing about.
Yeah.
It's they're offering amnesty, and I said on my blog, we've done this before.
Yeah.
It didn't work last time. I think I actually ran with the Einstein quote: "The definition of insanity is doing the same thing twice, expecting different results."
Yeah.
And that's what I led the article with. Is we've done this before. Y'all aren't bothering to look for it. Why should we do it again, expecting different results?
Oh, before I make a comment, I do want to say one thing that I forgot to mention earlier. Dayton, Wright Pat apparently had a tornado earlier this morning.
Wrecked that museum.
It got Hangar 4.
I was going to say it didn't hit the main museum.
It got Hangar 4, which is the Restoration Museum.
Right.
It got a F-104 Starfighter, two-seater, and it got a T-33. It apparently spun the T-33 enough to collapse the gear on it.
Mm-hmm.
And the F-104, it took the front cockpit off, and it rolled the port stabilator up like you would roll a piece of newspaper.
Yeah. The pictures from that are just like,
Yeah.
wow.
Tornadoes.
And it blew a number of windows out of the Hangar 4.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not see any pictures inside the hangar, so I don't know how much damage it did in there.
Yeah, I think we were probably looking at the same Flickr album for photos of that. I didn't see any inside pictures either.
Yeah.
It's not too far from the really ugly tornado damage that hit Dayton a few years back. But that hit right downtown.
Yeah.
And that was
I don't often think about Ohio as tornado territory, but sure isn't it?
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
Yes.
It's Tornado Alley North.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no. Sanford talks about his 16th birthday. There was a tornado swarm on his 16th birthday.
Wow.
In Xenia, Ohio, which isn't too far from where Sanford was.
Sean is mentioning that.
Yeah, it seems to be like a tornado magnet.
Yeah.
It's a real serious threat in that area, and there's a lot of damage. And the one that hit Dayton, my commute ran right through the heart of the damage, and it was really interesting to see that and to see what was done to the houses. And even 3 years later, like people were still tarping off their roofs because the west of Dayton is not a very good area and very low income. And I mean, 10 years ago, you could buy a house there for $5,000.
Yeah.
That was nominally livable. You wouldn't want to live there unless you were the right kind of person.
Yeah.
Demographic group.
Yes, demographic group is important. But yeah, I mean, it was a birthday party in West Dayton that convinced me I had to get my concealed carry. Honest to God, I was trying to figure out what to do with all these kids. I was like, if those punks come back and they bring weapons with them and we go hot here, I'm going to be shoving kids under. There were concrete picnic tables and benches in that park.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to get this batch of kids under that one and that batch of kids under that one. And so it was at that point that I realized that, you know what?
Yeah.
I need to not be standing here with a balloon pump and a paintbrush.
That's the mama train of thought, because that never even occurred to me. It's like, how do you get the biggest, loudest one?
Yeah.
You thump him, the rest run. Kids? Oh yeah, there's kids.
There were like 20 kids, and we're talking little kids.
Good. They're not my line of fire.
babies. So I'm like, that was my first thought.
I can
What
shoot
am I
over
going to do with these kids? Because, well, at the time, I didn't have the ability to shoot over them.
Yeah.
That was what crystallized my I must go get that ability. I know you're making the face.
That I was not aware of. Dan says we have a surprising number of tornadoes in Connecticut.
Really?
Interesting.
I did not know that.
Until very recently, like my dad got to track one of the first ones. They denied that there were ever tornadoes in New England, especially in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And Dad and his crew watched and tracked a tornado touchdown in, I think it was 2002. And they knew it was a tornado, and everybody was saying, no, it wasn't. It was a microburst. It wasn't a tornado. And it's like Dad and the emergency response crew were like, it was a funnel cloud.
Yeah.
Dad spent some time growing up in Nebraska.
Yeah.
He knows what a tornado looks like.
I saw my first one when I was 10 years old in Texarkana. We just moved up there the year before. And I remember standing at the dining room window looking out at the pasture. And I'm watching the fence post and the back fence go doing, 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 doing.
Oh my goodness.
And I remember yelling for Mama. I said, Mommy, look at this, look at this. And the next thing I know, I am pancaked and in the bathroom.
Uh-huh.
It was like, what did I do? It's a tornado, boy. And we went out after the fact, and there was pine straw driven through trees.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it took until I was in high school and got to doing some research to realize that what it was low pressure areas actually pulling the tree apart
Mm-hmm.
and shoving the pine straw through it,
Yeah.
and then the tree closing back up on it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't
Yeah.
physically driven through it.
Right. It's just closed on the
Closed on
debris what was in the air. Yeah. The first time I saw a tornado, I was 18. I was deep in a holler in West Virginia where I was attending college. And we were all not the entire student body, but a good chunk of us were out standing in the parking lot down at the bottom. I mean, we're talking a deep, narrow holler. And it was a puny little tornado, but it skipped from one ridge top to the other right over the top of us.
Yeah.
And we're just we're all 18-year-olds, invincible and vulnerable, and watching this little tornado go skipping across the ridges.
Yeah, the next one I saw was down in Carolina when I was working at the university. And I happened to have the kids there. So I'm at work, they're at home, and I get this phone call from my oldest daughter, said, Daddy, the sky is turning green. I went, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go in the basement.
Yeah.
I'm on my way home.
Mm-hmm.
There was a
And I hear the radio reports of a tornado touching down in Lexington, which was across the lake. And then the second report was that it was bouncing across the lake.
Oh no.
And it literally skipped over the condominiums that I lived in,
Mm-hmm.
and hit the other side of the road a quarter of a mile away.
Oh,
And went plowing through that.
Yeah.
And then trying to get in to make sure the kids were okay.
Yeah.
Because the cops are blocking the road, nobody in, nobody out. It's like, I live right there.
My
My kids are there.
Yeah.
And I had finally showed them my driver's license. They let me go through.
Yeah.
And the kids were still huddled in the basement. They had flashlights. And they had, and I'll never forget this, they each had a can of Vienna sausage, a piece of cheese, and potato chips.
Well,
Smart.
they weren't going to go hungry.
smart. Nothing to drink, but smart.
Yeah, they were going to ride it out. And I think they had water or tea. No, they had a pitcher of tea. So they were prepared.
Mm-hmm.
News Channel 10 out of Amarillo back in the 90s had a weatherman that had a sense of humor. And in 94 or 95, he had this thing about, the difference between a tornado watch and a tornado warning.
Yeah.
And, it's like, the tornado watch is conditions are favorable for tornado to happen. The tornado warning means there's a tornado on the ground.
Yeah.
This means Gentlemen, put down the beer and go to the basement.
Yeah.
Oh, that was funny as hell.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Arguments over what cats are where. That's been going on for a long time.
I remember Gary Hunt was the game warden in Donnelly County when I was working there. I remember sitting there looking at a printed off game cam picture. And Gary said, "That's a bobcat." I said, "It's the longest goddamn tail I've ever seen a bobcat." Said, "State of Texas says that's a bobcat." Uh-huh.
I grew up in central Louisiana, a few miles from where Julian Thompson's from, where he lives now.
That explains so much.
Because they talk like my tulip. And like I was 5 or 6 years old, and my daddy was the district field gauger for the state of Louisiana, so we lived out at the pumping station at Searcy. So I had a 3-acre backyard to play in with an 8-foot high chain link fence around it. And on the left side of it was a swamp. On the right side was railroad tracks. And the nearest neighbor was like a mile and a half away. And I had a dog that we had been given. There was a cross between a bull mastiff and a Russian wolfhound.
Goodness, that is a big dog.
I have pictures somewhere of me riding him as a 5-year-old.
That makes sense. Yes, I can.
And I was out in the backyard playing with Ralph. And this scream came from the swamp. And Ralph puffed up. I didn't know dogs could puff up, but they can. And he started growling and backing into me.
Mm-hmm.
So I start up the steps into the house, and my mother grabs me and yanks me in. And Daddy grabbed Ralph and yanked him in. This goes on for about 2 days. And then a couple of nights later, hear it again, and then Daddy shoots something. It was a black panther.
Mm-hmm.
And it was probably stretched out about 4.5 feet with about 3 feet of tail behind it. And the game warden came out and said, "Tain't real."
Yeah.
What? And Daddy went, "I killed it right there in the yard." He said, "Well, that ain't from around here." "I killed it right over there." "Well, that ain't from around here." Whatever.
Like I told Gary
And that
Hunt.
thing disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
I told Gary Hunt, that's the longest goddamn tail I've ever seen a bobcat.
Yeah. Well, New Hampshire, I think they're still denying that they have cougar, mountain lion, whatever it is.
Oh, yeah.
But there's an awful lot of people with video.
Yeah.
A game warden actually told us where the den was.
No,
But they
John,
can't
we don't have.
officially-
I don't have a picture. That was 1956.
Yeah.
Well, John said earlier that different breeds of cats have different bodies. It's easy to tell the difference. Also have different cries.
Yeah.
Mm.
I'm here to tell you, you hear a mountain lion scream,
Mm-hmm.
you won't, especially behind you in the Canadian breaks.
Yeah.
You won't forget that.
Or a black panther or a panther scream.
Yeah.
Totally different than a bobcat call. Totally different.
Yeah.
It's like the difference between a drag chicken and a turkey.
Julie says, "Swear I saw a dead black panther on the highway last month. Probably a black lab, but it was something in the shape that triggered cat." Yeah.
Also, we've got, and the game warden will deny it. We've got Jagarundi in this area. Rita's seen one.
Yeah.
And Rita has good. She knew what she didn't know what it was. She described it well enough that I showed her a picture. She said, "That's it, Jagarundi. They're in the area."
Well, we know they're down at hunt camp.
Oh, no kidding. Down in Hamilton County, they've
Yeah.
got at least one Jagarundi in hunt camp because both Jim and I have seen it.
It's pretty.
Yeah. It was stalking a couple of yearlings.
Yeah.
It was a little optimistic, I think, but it looked like black silk going across rocks.
Yeah.
Hey, baby.
What looked like black silk going across rocks?
That Jagarundi that I saw down in Hamilton County.
Oh, okay.
And then Rita saw one up here a little while ago back.
No, I didn't. I saw like 6. It was a whole litter.
Oh. Huh. Where was that? On 367?
No, it wasn't. It was over you know, that little dog leg jog. If you take the road south from, this is unnecessarily complicated. You take the road, if you go out of United's main parking lot on their road, you turn right and you go straight all the way down
That's
to where the dog
Yeah.
dog legs.
yeah.
And it was on the dog leg that was past that new barn dominium there.
Huh.
Just, you know what? No, it wasn't. Forgive me. You're right. It was 367. It was near the railroad trestle.
Yeah,
That's right by the river.
By old camel
That's where it
kisses.
was. I'm sorry.
Where that camel slaughtered that family.
Yeah.
Have you told everybody about the camel slaughter? You got to hear the camel slaughter story. It's ugly. Camels are nasty.
Camels are terrible.
Well,
Anyway.
now that you've
No,
preloaded that one,
no. That's camel whacked a couple of people out on 367. They had a camel farm for yoinks, and their bull camel got in the mood, and somebody.
Well, it was icy. Remember, everything was frozen, and they had a couple of females and a male out there. The man of the house, and they were older, but they weren't old. Were they like in their 60s, maybe?
I guess.
He went out to make sure the ice was broken. The camels stomped him, and then the lady went out to try and save him, and she got stomped. Yeah.
I love the glee with which Rita said that.
Who said that?
David.
That's funny. No, it's just a weird story. It's I feel terrible for the people. I mean, you don't love an animal enough to farm them or something, and then expect they're going to stomp the
I mean,
how many
many people every year get killed by cows?
Yeah.
Or bathtubs.
what caliber for angry camel? Enough.
I suggested 12 gauge.
Yeah.
The experts in the agency used a 223. Didn't work well.
No.
Didn't work well.
Just cut off their toes.
Yeah. They don't have toes. They have hooves. Hooves that spread out.
Thanks for coming with me.
Oh, baby. Oh, sweetheart.
Oh dear. Yeah.
Yeah. Farm girl, that Don says that's a lot of critters spreading back into historical ranges because people forgot how to kill them.
Yeah.
But officially admitting that means there's paperwork. Yeah.
Yep.
And a lot of it's a pain in the ass. Yes, paperwork sucks.
Well, not jaguarina, but jaguars. South to central Texas was historically jaguar range.
Yeah.
Up into New Mexico, especially along the Rockies. And our folks that I trust that swear they've seen jaguars. And you can tell the difference between a jaguar. If you know what a mountain lion looks like, you know the difference between a jaguar and a mountain lion.
Yeah.
Jaguar is a hell of a lot bigger. And the official state of Texas, state of New Mexico is there's no jaguars here.
Yeah.
Horse feathers. I knew a guy that killed an elk in the Panhandle like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny because I was reading a blog article. There's a blog I follow that's written by a fellow that works at the prairie restorations up in Nebraska. Also, he's a fabulous photographer, so it's a lot of fun to follow his. And there's bison herds up there, so lots of pretty pictures. But he's very level-headed about the fact that a lot of conservation efforts are attempting to return the environment around them to the state that it was in hundreds of years ago, which is completely impractical. And that's what this guy's point is. He's like, we've got to take off the historical goggles.
Yeah.
We have to manage the land that we have now with the resources that we have now.
Yeah.
And this is also the guy that, and I thought this was fascinating. Bison were not as migratory as we think they were.
Really?
Yeah. So, and then I'll have to send you the link to that one. But so the argument for the preservation of the Great Plains through the migratory process of the bison doesn't actually pan out.
Yeah.
Oh.
But climate changes naturally. And if we look at 10,000 years ago versus now, you're looking at two very different climates.
Oh, yeah.
Now we've gotten actually quite a bit warmer, which has been a good thing and has allowed a lot more life and plant growth, and it's an interesting cycle. But if we're going to manage range and try to keep it the way we want it without the mesquite coming up in it, because that's the mesquite moving has to do with that's connected to climate shift, and we have to be able to get out there and graze it, which means cows, because that large of a bison herd isn't practical anymore. So,
well, it's not just
and controlled burns, and a combination of both. Yeah.
Well, the mesquite, the whole thing with the mesquite, that, well, I understand, yes, there is a climate to that.
Yeah.
That is more the cattle drives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is the largest single impact on the mesquite travel.
Well, I'll go in a different direction from what Cedar was saying. The North American hoofed rat, the white-tailed deer.
Yes. Yeah.
They are spreading into ranges that they never existed historically, and this is a bad thing because apparently I was talking to Jesse Gaunt, and whitetail and mule deer, when they're in the same area, the mule deer loses. Whitetail are smaller, but they're more adaptable, and they'll eat the mule deer out of house and home.
Yeah, adaptability is huge, and a lot of people don't fully understand the repercussions of genetic adaptability and the ability to reproduce quickly and frequently.
Yeah.
So, and that's where you get a lot of the pressure from an animal population, is if you have a population where they can have, in the case of the whitetails, where they can come in and they can have maybe 2 litters of fawns a year. They can have twins or triplets, where I don't know what a mule does, but I'm going to guess they're dropping singles, maybe twins.
Yeah.
Whereas I have seen pictures of quads in fawns being successfully raised by a whitetail mother. So you've got population pressure in that particular case, that the other may be a larger breed, but they can't adapt to that. The prevailing theory for the collapse of the passenger pigeon isn't that they were overhunted to extinction. That may have had a factor, but the reality is that they genetically, we've gone back and we've actually looked at their genome from the specimens that we do have, and we have quite a few actually. There is no adaptability shown. It's very, very consistent through the entire population of passenger pigeons. So
That's
even
not
if they
good.
were and they weren't adapting to the increased pressure from the hunting.
Yeah.
So when the population started to collapse, in theory, there should be isolated pockets of passenger pigeons that survive, but they were not adapted well to maintaining smaller populations.
Right.
Alma Boykin pointed out that the other theory that goes along with that, they're entwined together, is that there had to be a certain amount of them for the reproduction signals or for them to reproduce successfully. So when you get the hunting pressure and the lack of adaptability genetically, all of a sudden you reach a tipping point where it just crashes and you get extinction.
Failure cascade.
Yeah.
So-
Sean says the last known formerly live specimen of passenger pigeon is in Cincinnati.
Apparently, there's some university with way too much money on its hands that's attempting to clone passenger pigeons.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's the thing, is why, and that is same thing with the dodo. We have the DNA. We could, in theory,
it's extinct
clone.
for a reason.
Exactly.
They were stupid.
But that's the thing, which is that you see populations go extinct for a lot of other reasons than just pressure from
Us.
humans.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we haven't gotten onto, especially the dodo with a very limited geographical area. We're actually far more likely to run things to extinction through introduction of stuff like pigs and goats and cats.
Apparently
Rats, and all of those are species that reproduce in large litters very rapidly,
highly adaptable.
and they will basically, as long as there's fodder for them, they'll keep reproducing
Yeah.
and expanding. I got to watch the snowshoe hare cycle in Alaska, which is a very, very famous, very well studied cycle of the population explodes. And every 3-4 years, there's a disease that goes through and it kills like 80-90% of them. And so then for a few years, there's not very many bunnies around and they reproduce like bunnies.
Like bunnies
And
do.
then the population gets super dense and this disease comes back around because they're actually close enough to pass it around, which is probably what we're seeing with chronic wasting right now.
that's what I was going to say.
I figured that's where
Chronic wasting. Because the deer populations, especially in the metro areas, are so high and so dense because you're not allowed to kill them.
They have no predation.
They have no predation.
It's not just you're not allowed to kill them. The folks moving there from big cities will lose their poo if you shoot Bambi.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to shoot Bambi necessarily. I want to get him and his mom.
Yeah. The Malthusian cycles are a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as Sean says, the white-tailed deer problem has a delicious solution. Yes.
Well, this is the thing: is you have what are called charismatic animals.
Yeah.
That the public does not like it when you. So there's a burrow problem in Big Bend Park.
Yeah.
And they are they are very destructive, and the population has been growing and growing and growing, and they tried to have a hunt to get this down to a manageable solution.
Karen lost her poo.
And the public found out about it and completely lost their crap because donkey.
Yeah.
And so
then they tried to round them up and sell them.
Oh, they've been doing that for decades.
And nobody would buy them.
This is more recent than that.
Yeah. And then they tried to give them away and nobody would take them.
Right.
So they ended up killing them anyway.
But and then so about 4 or 5 years ago, they stopped killing them publicly.
Yeah.
Publicly. That's like our goose problem here in Owl Park. The geese, Canadian geese in Owl Park, especially in Owl Park, they're
everywhere. The Canadian geese
and Gordon Lake. The bottom 6 feet of Gordon Lake is goose poo.
Yeah,
and that's not good for the water. It's not good for any fish that are trying to exist in that water because goose poo.
Yeah.
Later, Wally.
Right. See you, man.
So, and the Canadian geese are a problem.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, we will tend to this problem. Well, the local lost their poo. So then you have the rusty white van with the axe handle showing up in the middle of the night, and the police going, didn't see a thing, and you didn't either.
Yeah.
They killed like 330 geese.
Yeah.
Over near Midwestern University.
Oh God.
And there were literal protests over this. But the problem is that it's a population out of control, and either you go in and you kill them and thin the population down to a manageable level, or you're going to have a disease come in and wipe out them and everything else.
Well, they humanely relocated the ones here in Iowa Park.
Yeah.
Which lasted about 3 months.
They really go to that farm out in the country.
Yeah.
Well, but that leads to the other problem, which is nature abhors a vacuum.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about the Roomba escaping.
Oh my God, John.
My dogs abhor a vacuum too.
I had forgotten about that. The chickens in Fair Oaks, California.
Did they go feral?
Yes. This is down by Mather Air Force Base. Friggin' chickens everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the right climate. They're jungle fowl. I can absolutely see them going feral under those circumstances.
Well, not only that, but all the Mexicans down there brought chickens from Mexico.
Fighting chickens.
Fighting chickens.
Fighting chickens, yes.
Yes.
So chickens with black belts.
Yeah. You would be walking out to your car, and not only would they try to spur you, they would do their best to peck you to death.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
Chickens.
When I was working,
and Kauai's the same way, by the way.
When I was working in Carrollton, Texas, we were right under the shadow of the George W. Bush tollway.
Yeah.
And one day, I mean, I'm talking, we're in an industrial park 2 miles from the nearest residential area. One day I show up at work and there are 2 chickens running around in the parking lot. And both males, both roosters, young, I would say 4 or 5 months old, maybe. Not a breed I immediately recognized as being a fighting breed.
Yeah.
I think they were actually one of what's called a heavy bird, a meat bird.
Yeah.
But my boss, because bless her bleeding heart, wanted them to be caught. So she sends out the production manager to get a dog kennel. And he and I spent some time chasing these chickens around until we caught them both. They were obviously used to people. They weren't that unwilling
Feral.
to be caught. And we had these two chickens in this wire kennel on the front area of our business for a day until the production manager promised that his very lovely, very Mexican mother would take them to her farm and take care of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now there are places where birds are protected for a reason. The wrong reason, but the reason. Midway Island, Goonie birds, which are albatrosses. But they're a special breed that only exists on Midway and East Island. Dumber Than Dirt does not
Albatross.
begin to explain these birds. They can't land worth a shit. They can't take off for shit. If you distract them by moving and they're looking down at you, they will fly into the side of the hangar and go slither, slither, slither.
Derp, derp, derp.
When they're in the air, they are absolutely beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
They will range over 1,000 miles.
Yeah.
Because they can't land worth a damn.
Not on land. They're landing on land is basically yeah.
That's the flying for 1,000 miles. It's better than landing.
But if you killed one on Midway, it was $500 fine.
Mm-hmm.
We killed a bunch of them one morning, all trying to get launched. And they literally did an investigation of whether we could have done anything different. It's like we're in an airplane going down the runway. We don't have a capability to swerve. Well, you should have gotten out there with safety equipment and run them off. Really, dude?
You could have written them a strongly worded letter.
Yeah. So about 4 months after that, and they had a little golf course on Midway. The CBs got bored
Oh, no.
in 1944.
Oh, okay.
So it had sand greens. And you play golf, and you would sometimes have to fight the Goonie bird for the golf ball because they would think it was an egg and try to hatch it.
Mm-hmm.
Stay right there, little Goonie bird.
Yeah. And that's what one guy was doing. He had apparently had enough of the Goonie birds and had enough to drink, and he had killed 9 of them
Oh.
with a 5-iron. And he was apparently gotten real good at taking a full swing and launching their heads about 4 feet.
Was he getting any holes in one, though?
No.
Damn it.
Only 4 feet.
Yeah.
It's not nearly long enough.
Put.
So they ended up sending him to prison.
For whacking Goonie birds?
Animal cruelty.
Animal cruelty, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Plus having to pay the fine.
Nobody tell the monkeys, okay?
Turkeys stop and roost on the last branch they hit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Until it's hunting season, then the son bitches disappear.
No kidding.
Wild turkeys are candy birds.
Yes.
And
They know.
domestic turkeys, dumber than rocks.
Yeah.
The
Wild turkeys are different.
They get an IQ download the first day of hunting season.
Yeah.
Because
No, they get it the day before because first day of hunting season, they're gone.
no kidding. It's when Matt and I were scouting for a berry patch for deer, and we were setting up. There were turkeys. There were derp pigeons everywhere, and just gobble gobble dur, and then the day off, gone.
Yeah.
Yep. Where the hell they go?
And Michael said, that's why they whistle when they fly, all the missing feathers. Yeah. Yeah. And Ben Franklin wanted the wild turkey to be the American bird. Yes. And on that note, we've wasted another hour of your time, folks. And apparently this actually works by going back a computer generation. The mic has stayed on the whole time.
Yeah, but it's also cold in here now.
One troubleshooting thing at a time. Hush. But it's great to have everybody back home, and it was good
Yeah.
to see
Good to have everybody home.
Wally today.
Good to have the ladies home. Really was.
And the ladies did a rather interesting three broads last night.
I haven't seen that yet. Uh-oh, Courtney's giggling. That's
Yeah.
never good.
We had fun.
That's
Oh,
never
it's
good.
They dissected Pensacon.
Also, Substack. Raconteur Press has a Substack. Go by and give us a thumbs up, okay?
Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing with Substack. If you subscribe to Substack, you will get in your email all of our announcements. If you follow us on Facebook, you might or might not see the announcement 3 weeks later than whatever the deadline was.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So, Raconteur Press Substack, go by, give us a thumbs up, okay? So we can actually start pushing out some notifications. Because Facebook's doing us dirty occasionally.
Yeah.
Occasionally.
Yeah. Well, they're
I'm trying to be polite.
they're not publishing the posts that I put up half the time.
Yeah.
I,
I mean, I get a notification and click add to profile,
Yeah.
but I get like
I've-
2 likes on it.
Yeah.
I've started to catch so and so has commented on your post. Yeah, 6 months ago, and I replied.
Right. I've been getting that too. It'll be, and I'll look the data, the time stamp on the notification will be like 13 seconds ago, so and so liked whatever.
Yeah.
And I'll go look and I'll be like, this was 3 months ago and I've already replied to it. So why?
Yeah,
Why
I had
now?
something that Mona Lisa Foster had commented on my post. Like, what?
Yeah.
And I went back and looked, and it said, like she said, 20 seconds ago, Mona Lisa Foster. No, it was 6 months ago, and we had a conversation after that.
Yeah.
David is asking, please post the Substack link on the NTTM group.
We'll get it.
Okay. We can
All
do
right.
that.
Okay. I will have to say, intern Steve and Mike have definitely earned the extra mayonnaise on our cheese sandwiches this month. They've been putting in the work.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. We appreciate it.
And on that note, remember, don't sweat the petty stuff. Don't pet the sweaty stuff. We'll see you next week. Bye.